Listen up. There's no more excuses.
We're empowering those who want the hustle by exposing the status quo.
The days of ordinary are over.
It's time to crush mediocrity and start discovering your greatest potential.
Welcome to the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation. To the Hustle Nation.
All right. You know what time it is. It's book review time, and this one is Buyback Your Time by Dan Martell. The subtitle of the book is Get Unstuck, Reclaim Your Freedom, and Build Your Empire. Now, I don't care where you're at in your career, what industry, what type of job you have. Maybe you don't work. Maybe you're a stay-at-home parent. This is a book that could literally change your life. And that's not something I say very often. I don't want to take that out of context because this book was so profound in so many ways that I'm going to tell you already. To start this off, I don't normally do this, but this is my number one book of 2024/2025. I started reading it at the end of last year, and it's caused me to not only think again, but think differently about how I approach my life in many different ways. That comes from my time, how I value my time, how I manage or choose to manage my calendar, and what I do with my time. It got me thinking about the future and how I can not only be a better me, but be a more effective and efficient me. And you know what that means? You know what I've come to realize? Is that means being a better me means being a better husband, being a better father, being more present, having less anxiety and stress about all the things that go on in my life. It means fewer things are going to slip through the cracks, so I have a higher follow-through rate. It means so many things that I've wanted to be for so long that it got me really excited. And I can tell you right now that not only will I be rereading this later this year, but I just recently downloaded the Audible version, because I want to make sure that I can embody as many of these tips, tricks, and tactics as possible and start living this buyback your time lifestyle. So let's get into the book review. So you might be wondering, Chris, is this book for me? Here's what I would say. Are you constantly juggling tasks, feeling overwhelmed, or wondering if there's a better way to manage your time? Well, just imagine if you could run your life like a CEO, freeing yourself of the grind and focusing on what truly matters. And in this book, Dan Martell talks about how to buy back your time. And I believe this is going to be a game changer for anyone who feels stuck on the hamster wheel. Kind of feels like you're burned out or on the verge of frustration. Let's dive into what's inside. So, this isn't just another book on productivity. It's a playbook by Dan Martell. And he's a seasoned entrepreneur and coach who introduces the concept of the Buyback Principle, where you don't just grow your business or life by doing more. In fact, it's very much the opposite. You grow by doing less of the wrong things. The book is packed with frameworks, tactics, and strategy, including your $10 an hour tasks versus your $1,000 an hour tasks. And these practical steps help you to delegate effectively without guilt. And that's a problem a lot of us have. More so, it's about how to build a team, even if you're just starting out, even if you're just a solopreneur. And yes, he even dives into personal growth, addressing mindset shifts, managing your energy, and more importantly, how to avoid burnout. Why this book matters for you? Well, Buy Back Your Time hits differently. Dan doesn't just talk about time management, he shows you how to buy back your freedom. And believe me, it's something we all need. He challenges the hustle culture mentality, which so many of us are in, whether you want to believe it or not. But the book matters because it's practical. There's no fluff. It's just actionable insight you can start implementing immediately, even if you take just bits and pieces from it. I also found that it's very relatable. Dan shares his own struggles and failures, which makes the advice feel real. I mean, I wouldn't say it's preachy. It's just not for entrepreneurs. It's for anyone, whether you're a stay-at-home parent, you're a teacher, whether you never lead a team or anyone. There are so many nuggets that you can apply to your household, your parenting, your career, your relationships, and anything broadly. So you might be wondering, why should you read the book? Well, I've already mentioned a few reasons, but If you're someone who feels like you aren't there, or you're just a couple steps away, or there aren't enough hours in the day, if you want to scale your business without sacrificing the sanity, which believe me, it's possible, you have dreams of doing more, but time gets in the way, this book is for you. The actionable frameworks make it a must read for anyone looking to design a life that fits for them, that works for you. And let's be honest, who doesn't want that? So let's get into some personal takeaways. And there's one here I want to read to you that is on page 68. And this one hit home with me because I have and still can fall into the trap of working on non-revenue generating tasks. Basically, sometimes picking the low-hanging fruit. And he says this: $10 million companies were not built on $10 tasks. Now, I would even argue that $1 million companies are not built on $100 tasks. So we have to think about that for a moment, because there are things you may like doing, like social media management, like returning phone calls, or responding to emails. You might feel obligated to do it, but you don't really have to do that. You could have someone do it for you. And he dives into a lot of that with personal assistance and delegation and hiring assistants and whatnot. And that really sparked me to want to dive deeper into hiring a VA. Now, furthermore, if you're someone who's balked at the idea of hiring an assistant or a VA or anything just for delegation purposes, he says this: some people scoff at paying someone else to do the work they hate, whether that be cleaning their house, answering their phone calls, returning their voicemails. He said, but I think it's selfish not to. And I tend to agree, because if you hate doing QuickBooks, if you hate doing certain parts of the business that you shouldn't be doing that are low income or non-income generating, it's probably ideal to hire someone else to do that so that you can continue to help grow and scale the business by working on it, not in it. That could mean paying someone to put gas in your car, clean your house, do any number of the things that you want to do so that you can be a more present father, spouse, whatever it might be. Now, another part that I found really interesting on the topic of assistants, VAs, and delegation, he says a lot of people just can't let go. And that's true. I've been there, and I'm guessing you have too, with a lot of things. You think, well, no one's going to do it as good as me. No one's going to be close enough to wanting to do it as perfect as I do it. And that's probably true. But this statement really stood out. He says 80% done is 100% awesome. A playbook, which he teaches you how to do in this book, will ensure that 80% or more of a repeated process happens exactly like you want it to, giving you predictable results. So basically, if something gets done 100% of the time, but at least 80% to 90% to the quality that you would do it, that is 100% awesome. Now, as simple as that may be, it's actually kind of profound, because if we're tasked with doing everything, how can we do everything 100%? The truth is, we can't. Now, there's just a couple more things I want to cover before we move on. And it was the topic of multitasking. Basically, iterating that we can't multitask effectively. And this really hit home. He says, every time you switch tasks, your brain has to switch focus. Some call this context switching. According to a joint research project by two organizations, one of them Cornell University, every time a worker switches between software applications, it takes them almost 10 minutes to get back to a high level of productivity. In another study, researchers noted that workers simply felt more productive when they didn't have to switch between their tools. Pretty interesting, because so many people think they can multitask, but they just can't. We can really only do one thing at a time, effectively and efficiently. And so when it comes down to working, getting into deep work, maintaining a schedule and sticking to it, he talks a lot about batching work. So doing things together. So, for example, when it comes to social media, why have to create content every single day when you can block maybe an hour or two on a Monday morning and get all of your content done for the foreseeable 2 weeks or maybe even for a month? That eliminates the stress and anxiety, if you schedule all of them out, to not have to worry about that, but simply just monitor and adjust from afar. And that is something I think more people need to get into the habit of. So overall, one of the bigger takeaways for me is to just not trade time for money. Dan's calendar audit blew my mind. By reviewing your calendar and identifying the low value tasks, you can gain clarity on where you're wasting your time. I also love the emphasis on investing in people because building a great team doesn't just scale your business, it scales your life. And that really hit home with me too, because we all have things going on both within business and within our home. And one of my favorite lines from the book was, "Your calendar never lies." Mine certainly didn't either. So if you're thinking about this and you're thinking about reading, I have to implore you to grab a copy of this book. It is more valuable, likely, than any other book that I've read. It is my favorite book. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. And I think if you're anyone who wants to live more intentionally, which you should be, this book will change how you approach your time forever. If you've read this book, let me know what you think in the comments below. Shoot me a message, and I would love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like or subscribe. We do video reviews all the time. But again, get into reading. It's only going to make you a better person. It's going to help you live the best life you can. So continue to invest in yourself, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.